Hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate here on the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. All the people who are working so hard in the trenches to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. Hey, listen, it's been a really great week on the show. I had the opportunity yesterday to visit with Congressman Michael Guest from the 3rd District. It was a terrific conversation. I haven't had him on the show before. I was actually surprised. He's been on SuperTalk many times. But we retraced his steps from Brandon to Washington and got his views about what's happening there. He's super actively engaged. I think to have a law enforcement / former district attorney background and the years of experience around that really puts him in a great position where he understands a lot of the issues. And so if you missed that conversation, I would really encourage you to go listen to it. Anyway, just a great week on the show, and I want to thank you for paying close attention. By the way, by the time this airs, the most recent column that I've written about coastal Mississippi and our economic development future, on this particular column, I talk a lot about, as I may have mentioned earlier in the week, talk a lot about why we need to diversify with so many eggs in gaming and so many eggs in government and so much opportunity. We have an opportunity to diversify in ways I don't think we fully have embraced yet. And this column is about that. So I'll continue to write about it. We're going to be talking about it, doing shows about it. On the 20th year of Hurricane Katrina, it's a real opportunity for us to shift gears. And we will, I think, be talking a lot more about the potential of coastal Mississippi going forward. Okay, with that, all that said, let's move now over to my friend Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. And first of all, just say good morning to my friend Jeff. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning, Ricky. I'm doing great. Great to hear from you as always.
Sorry you're a little under the weather, man.
Yeah, I got that stuff that's been going around. But I'm okay. My immune system's robust, buddy, so I'm going to fight through it.
Hey, listen, I mentioned to you before the show started that I saw this very real post by a credible news group, which I don't think it's smart for a credible news organization to do a April Fool's post. First of all, I just don't. Every bone in my body says that's not right to do that. I wish I'd have sent it to you so we could look at it together. But it said that Derek Carr had been traded for a conditional second round and so on and so on and so on. And people were going crazy. Like half of the people who were commenting were saying, thank God. And the other half were saying the Saints are idiots. But anyway, there's no chance of that to begin with. But it was funny to me that someone would go into such depth about such a thing that was just an April Fool's joke.
Well, you have to be on alert, right? April 1. I mean, that stuff's going to happen. I think Tiger Woods put out an April Fool's joke too that caught some people off guard and fooled them. And he had to issue something of an apology because he didn't realize so many people would fall for it. But obviously, Derek Carr is a polarizing player. We know that. And you're going to get some lightning rod attention when you throw that out there. It's funny. We were talking yesterday with my colleagues about Derek Carr, and I'm trying to gauge how much of this is social media mob mentality and how much of it is real with the fan base. Because I was bringing it up to my colleagues yesterday. I don't remember Derek Carr getting booed last year at the Dome at all. I know he did 2 years ago at that Detroit Lions game. But last year, if you remember, they started strong. They won those first 2 games. Philadelphia, they played very well. He was playing well early. I don't recall that. I may be wrong, but I think people are thinking this is going to be I'm just thinking we might be reacting too much to the social media kind of, vocal minority that's out there. I'm interested to see how it plays out this year.
Yeah, it will be. I don't remember him being booed last year either. He had some unfortunate injuries and missed some games. We've said this many times before, but if Derek Carr could stay healthy and his supporting cast could stay healthy, he's a pretty darn good quarterback. I mean, at the end of the day, maybe what we're learning is to win big, you got to have a superstar. But others have won with quarterbacks that weren't necessarily superstars. Um, I still think we probably have a long way to go with quarterback, don't we?
Well, I mean, he's kind of exactly what he was when he came from the Raiders. So I think expectations were maybe a little unfairly high for him. This was what he was with the Raiders, kind of a middle of the pack starting quarterback. But I think what we're seeing, Ricky, is just the frustration with the team. And the head coach and the quarterback are the two that receive the brunt of the frustration from the fan base. So it kind of comes with the territory of being the starting quarterback. And the backup quarterback is the one that's always, beloved. It's just the way it's gone since NFL started, since football started. But I think it's proven that he's their best option at quarterback. Just look at the records the last couple of years when he doesn't play.
Well, listen, we've got the draft coming up, and I've seen some recent interviews with Kellen Moore. He's very high on Ireland. You've done a little bit of work in that area. I guess he has a reason to be high on him, doesn't he?
Well, Jeff Ireland is the head of the college scouting. He's also the assistant general manager for the team. I've talked about him at length. He's been here now, what will be now 10 drafts. This will be his 11th draft, really his 10th draft where he's in charge. He came in 2015, in January of 2015. So if you know how college scouting works, that's really about 3/4 of the way through the job. So it's really hard to say that he ran the draft in 2015 because that was his protege or his predecessor's job back then. But he was still here through that 2015 draft. They drafted Andres Pete, and then all the way through till now, he's run the draft. I mean, when you watch draft day with the Saints, when they go inside the war room, I mean, Jeff Ireland is running the show there, not Mickey Loomis. I think people need to understand that. One of Mickey Loomis's strengths, I think, is he knows what he doesn't know. He's not a personnel evaluator. He came up through the business side of the football operation in Seattle. He knows salary cap, running business operations. He doesn't know. I mean, obviously, he's been in the game for a long time. He knows football, but that's not his strength. So he lets his people do their thing, and he lets Jeff Ireland run this draft. Now, it's a collaborative effort, but make no mistake, it's a Jeff Ireland show. And I thought it was a good time to, 10 years in, to look at how the Saints have performed in the draft. And the thing that stood out to me the most in my findings, I surveyed the whole league, Ricky, for the last decade of drafts. The Saints have by far had the fewest number of draft picks in the last 10 years. They've had 62 total picks. There's some teams in the league, Ricky, over that same 10-year period, they've had 97 draft picks. Think about that. That's 35 more picks that they've had at their disposal. But that's obviously a philosophy of the Saints. One, they like to trade up and go get the player they want. So they want to target a player. And then two, I think it also shows they're not really in the past have been very good at landing compensatory picks, to getting those extra picks from free agency. But the fact that they've only had 62 picks in 10 years shows you just how they philosophically believe to go get a player and not worry about quantity in the draft as much as quality. And they've done fairly well. I mean, the thing that Jeff Ireland's really good at is top 100 picks. And look, every team in the league will tell you that's basically the first 3 rounds. That's where you want to get in the draft. That's not necessarily the top 10. I mean, top 10 picks, obviously you can, count on those guys being pretty good, but the Saints very rarely miss on a top 100 pick. The only ones you can really say they've missed on over the years are, I guess, Isaiah Foskey right now. The jury's out on him. Kendre Miller, the jury might be out on him. Peyton Turner clearly was a miss. Marcus Davenport probably a miss. But of the 32 picks or so in the first 3 rounds over that decade, every one of those players has turned out to be a multi-year starter, in some cases a Pro Bowl player. They've had 4 Pro Bowl players. But I think people are frustrated with the team right now, and they're saying that the drafts haven't been that well, when actually I think they've been pretty good. I'd say not at the very top of the league, but if you look at their value, at least in the top 10 in the league and what they produced under Jeff Ireland.
One of the on this video I mentioned I saw where he's sitting around the table. You probably know the exact situation, and you can tell us about that. But he mentioned Kellen Moore mentioned about how they were preparing for the draft and communicating with Ireland and beginning to understand the coaches' roles and the evaluation process and all of that. It's a reminder of just how much work they have to do to get in sync with one another because of all these new coaches. But I tell you what we'll do. Let's do this. We'll pick it up right there when we get back on the other side as we continue to talk about the off season for the Saints. And we'll see what else is on Jeff's mind as well when we get back on the other side. But we've got Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, and we'll continue the conversation after this break. We'll see you shortly. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We're visiting with Jeff Duncan from NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. When we went to break, I was mentioning about this sort of roundtable conversation that was happening with the new Saints head coach, Kellen Moore. And he was talking about getting in sync with Ireland. And I was just making the point that it's a reminder of how much work there is to do when you've got so many new people at the table. It's pretty significant, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, especially when you think about it, Ricky. I mean, the Saints got a late start on the rest of the league. They're kind of playing catch up because they were the last team to make a head coaching hire, and then Kellen Moore had to put together his staff. Really, he's talked about that, how quick things had to happen before they went to the NFL scouting combine. So there's a lot of learning, I think, familiarizing themselves with each other. It's interesting to see the Saints coaching staff has been heavily involved in the scouting process under Kellen Moore. I mean, they've sent out their assistants all over the country. Joel Thomas, the running backs coach, was out at Boise State. Boise State has, of course, Ashton Genty, top 10 running back that they were looking at. That they're keeping their assistants involved in the scouting process. And look, this is important for the scouting department at the Saints under Jeff Ireland, the college scouting department, to know exactly what kind of player Kellen Moore and his staff want at those positions. They understood that before with Dennis Allen. They've been with Dennis Allen all this time. But now you got a new staff that's going to be running a different scheme. So it's important to be on the same page. So I think it's kind of fascinating to see how they go through this process. And you're right, it's very important for them to get on the same page.
One of the things he mentioned was about Derek Carr and, looking forward to getting started with, having players actually on location. It hit me. Was Derek Carr already engaged this time last year? Because I think what he was saying, he's still out of town. Is he on his normal schedule, or is he usually here and not here at this moment?
No, he usually spends his time with his family away from town, and most players do. I mean, almost every player is out of town right now. Actually, only ones that are probably here are guys like Cam Jordan, who lives here full time. But most of the players, I'd say 99%, live out of town and stay with their families. This is the only time of year, they really have to engage with their families a little bit in the month of July. And then they'll all be here. I should say all. Most of them will be here April 14th when they start the off-season program.
Yeah, when you said most of them, what are the one or two players that was in your mind when you said that may not be here?
Well, if you remember last year, I think Alvin Kamara did not come to the off-season workouts. A lot of people speculating that was because of his contract, things like that. Some guys might be, choosing to rehab. Just around the league, these workouts coming up are voluntary, so the players don't have to be here. And often a veteran player will not be a part of it. But for the most part, everyone's going to be here, especially this year because you have a new staff. So it's imperative that these players start to get here and learn the new systems that are going to be installed, especially once they get on the field in organized team activities, those OTAs, which I hate that phrase, by the way. But I think once they start practice, that's to be the first time that they're learning the new scheme and system. We went through this last year on offense with Clint Kubiak. So that's why it was a little controversial when Alvin Kamara wasn't here, because there was a new system going in and he wasn't here and he was having to kind of remotely learn. I expect he'll be here this year. I'll be surprised if he's not.
I'll be surprised if he's not either, for the reason you just mentioned, and also just simply because we need leadership in the locker room, and we need leadership from day one, and we need people coming together around the new direction for the team. And so, I hope he's here and part of that process. Um, so, in watching these little tidbits of interviews you're seeing with Kellen Moore, are you able to glean much from it?
Well, I watched that whole interview the other day twice, if you will. Where he's speaking is the NFL owners meetings. Every year they have the annual league meetings. They usually have 1 year it's on the East Coast, and the next year it's on the West Coast, often in Phoenix or out in Palm Desert, California. This year it's at the Breakers down in Palm Beach. It's always, Ricky, it's always at the ultimate hotel. I mean, 5-star resort. These owners aren't staying at a Motel 6, I can tell you that. But it's amazing access for reporters because they always have the coaches' breakfast on Monday and Tuesday, or Monday and Tuesday, where you get each coach in the league. It has a sit-down breakfast with the reporters, and you really get a chance for like 45 minutes to ask them anything you want. So it's good access, and it was our first chance to hear from Kellen Moore since he really got hired, in depth. But what I'm learning from him is he doesn't say a lot. He talks a lot and doesn't say much, if you know what I mean. He's pretty vanilla in his answers. And I don't know if that's intentional or just the way he is. It could be a little of both. But he was asked directly a couple of times about, where's Taysom Hill in his rehab? Where's Foster Moreau in his rehab? And he didn't lend any insight into, how things are going. His answers were really vague, which are probably on purpose. So we're just going to have to get used to how he does things. I mean, if you watch other coaches around the league, some are very open and insightful and informative. Others, we always know Bill Belichick legendarily, intentionally vague and difficult to deal with. So it'll be interesting to see how Kellen Moore operates as he gets probably a little more comfortable, too, in that role as the head coach. This is his first head coaching job, so I think we have to understand that.
Are you hearing anything about Taysom Hill specifically?
No, that's what I mean. Nobody's heard anything, so that's why you get a chance to ask. You ask, and I think I think Taysom Hill's going to be a big part of this offense, though. The way they like to run things, I think he's going to have a key role. So obviously, his injury rehab is going to be important for this team. I don't expect him to be on the field in these off-season workouts at all. I expect if we see him at all to be in the fall at training camp.
Well, listen, you mentioned the Breakers, and I think I may have mentioned this to you, but in one of my conversations with Mickey Loomis, I asked him, what's the difference between the NBA and the NFL? And his first, I mean, he alluded to several factors, but the very first thing he mentioned is, the big difference is NFL goes to the best hotels and we live large, and the NBA doesn't do that. It was an interesting way to start his compare and contrast.
Yeah, that's interesting to me because I've always thought the NBA. I mean, I know like the Pelicans when they travel. I mean, they stay at the best hotels. I mean, they're staying at the best, but they also have fewer people too on a travel party compared to an NFL team. But I thought interesting that Mickey Loomis did not go to these owners meetings. I mean, it's the first time in my career covering the Saints, that I can remember Mickey Loomis not being at these meetings. I mean, the whole league is there. Most of them come with their families. It's a little bit of a vacation because you're staying at this nice hotel. So I think it's interesting that he stayed back. And I don't know the reason why he wasn't there, but it's certainly curious to me.
Yeah, that is interesting. Let's surmise that he is deep in it with the team, getting ready for the draft, and
maybe optics or whatever. But I don't think anybody would think he's shirking his duties. I mean, all the rest of the league's down there. That's where you go to have conversations on trades, or it's just a lot of business gets done there, and the whole league is there. So it's easier for you to do your business there than it would be over the phone. But maybe there's a real reason he had to stay back.
Hey, listen, I think one of the interesting things for me when Kellen Moore is talking is, like, for example, when they're talking about the push, you're reminded when he gives the answer that he was in Philadelphia. He was part of that. And so it's just a reminder that he comes from a winning team.
Well, he was there 1 year, so I mean, obviously the tush push was before him. I mean, I was talking to our colleagues the other day because everybody's trying to figure out what's in a quarterback, and they've looked at Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert, where he coached before, and Jalen Hurts. But I reminded them all three of those quarterbacks were on board before Kellen Moore got there. So it's really hard to say that, oh, yes, he wants a mobile quarterback per se, because all three of those guys were mobile. Well, he wasn't involved in the teams procuring that quarterback. So I think we really don't exactly know. And he was asked what he looks for in a quarterback. He was, again, pretty vague. You know, he didn't talk much about the intangibles, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
But obviously that's the most important position on the field. So, and he played the position. They've got a bunch of former quarterbacks on the staff. So I think it makes sense that they're going to be in the, you know, at least doing their due diligence on the quarterbacks, because they don't have the long-term, probably don't have the long-term answer on their roster right now.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, we're kind of coming to the end of our time together. This is the time of year in New Orleans when we start to get hot again and things are moving forward. I think they released where they're headed, what they're going to do about training camp. No big surprise there for you on that, huh?
No, I think they're going to go out to California for a week and work against the team out there and probably play a preseason game, get out of this heat. But everybody knew they were going to be back here in Metairie once they got the cafeteria construction finished. And so it makes a lot of sense. Now fans can come out and see the team up close and personal.
Yeah, that's about what you've been saying all along. So as usual, you're right. Jeff, hope you feel better, my friend.
Thanks, Ricky. We'll talk next week. Hopefully I'm over this crud and I'll be a little clearer in my voice. But I look forward to spending time with you as always. Thanks.
You bet, man. My pleasure. Hey, when we come back, we'll have JT Mitchell from SuperTalk Mississippi News. We'll see you after this.